Okay, hey guys, thank you so much for coming to the blog and going along with this process. It's something that we've been passionate about now over the last couple of years because we obviously just went through it. And we know it can be very overwhelming and even just starting. So we wanted to make this blog not just my words typing, but also get you involved, which kind of part of this.
An intricate piece.
So I thought we'd get together, we'd all have some wine and reminisce about how we started, because that was the longest part was, you know, once we decided we wanted to adopt, okay, where do you go from there? So we had, I'll just go ahead and start. When we moved here, we had a dinner with a group of friends, and it was an Italian dinner. And we met the executive director of St. Mary's, Joanne Brada, at this dinner. And this was way before we even started the process, but we were interested, and I had said to her, oh my goodness, like, I need to tap into your brain. I need to talk to you a little bit more about this. And then we just exchanged cards and stayed connected over the next year. I think it was over a year before I even reached out to her to actually start the process. But it was kind of a God thing, I feel like, placing Joanne in our lives before we started. But still, we didn't just go with St. Mary's because of Joanne.
No.
You know, you type into Google adoption, and I mean, you're just overwhelmed with everything. Do we adopt international? Do we adopt domestic, infant adoption? Okay, prices. I mean, because it's not a cheap thing to do, which we'll talk more about later on. But I mean, there's just so many things to look at. That, I mean, what did you, when I came to you and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do, what were some of the things that you thought of?
Well, I mean, it really wasn't like a spontaneous thing. I mean, I think that it had been brought up and talked about. We've thought about it, you know, years and years ago. You know, even going back to like Kansas City. Yeah. It had been brought up, so it was something that we always had an interest in, but it wasn't, you know, at the top of our radar at the time. So yeah, getting to meet Joanne was almost like a kind of a sign, with just being like, oh hey, that would be a good person to have like on your side. But yeah, when it came to the time of us really hammering down and saying, hey, this is something that we're going to do, there's a lot that goes into it. You know, being scared, just not knowing what could happen, the timing of it, you know, you get pregnant.
Or lack of timing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you get pregnant, and it's a little ballpark of a range, but it's like you got about 9 months.
Yeah.
You got right around 9 months-ish. To get everything in order and to be ready, and yeah, with adoption, you have no idea. It could be soon. It's rare, but it could have been a month.
Yeah, and he's the money guy. I don't worry about money as much as
no, not that I have money. It's that I worry about.
He worries about money.
That would be confusing.
And so he thinks, okay, well, we should wait to start the process because it could happen fast. And not only do we want to be prepared for a child, like anyone who gets pregnant, but also you want to be prepared for the extra money that you have to spend to adopt this child. So he's like, no, we've got to...
I think I had anxiety over just having a baby in general, with the timing and the money, and with our life, we've never been one where we were established. Well, we've been established in certain cities, but you know, like, we're staying here. Nothing could change.
Yeah.
Great jobs locked down, and we knew there was no chance at us leaving. And so, I mean, the same thing kind of goes with Chicago, where it's like, oh, what if we do this? What if we moved? And so, I think that was a big part of it.
There's contracts, and you do a lot of moving, so.
Yeah. And so that was a big part of it, and then being worried about, you know, potential, you know, birth mom, you know, the baby, just the process of going through it's scary. And so, there was a lot of anxiousness involved, but at the same time, I looked at it much more as it being a definite to what we had been going through with certain, with certain like infertility and trying to do stuff and it just not working, it going on for years and years. I had always looked at adoption as it might take a while, but it's eventually it's going to happen, which was exciting. You were excited to be like, at the end of this, we're going to, get a baby, which is what we're trying to do.
So when I picked up the phone, I called St. Mary's and had a phone conversation with Joanne and one of their social workers. And he was actually working, so you weren't on this initial phone call. And they kind of went over really just the ins and outs, surface level, not getting too deep at that point. And then they said, do your research. And that's one thing that I would say to anybody who's watching this video that's like, okay, we're thinking about adoption. Do your research, because St. Mary's, we went with St. Mary's because it's local. It's a local adoption agency. It works really with birth mothers in the state of Illinois. So it limits you in the regards to if somebody's like, hey, we want a baby soon. If you do nationwide, then you have a lot more a pool to work with, basically, than if you do local. But that's why you have to do your research, because you could go, there's several great adoption agencies, and we looked into a few, and I have friends, and we talked to a lot of friends, because I have some coworkers that have adopted internationally that have great experiences, coworkers that have adopted locally or even domestically that have had great experiences, but they're all different. Yeah. So that was one thing where it's like, okay, don't look at everybody else, use it as a guide, but whatever you and your partner are okay with. Of course, I wanted a baby like yesterday. Yeah. Okay, I wanted a baby. Years. Probably, years, a long time ago. Sure. But it wasn't necessarily like this has to happen right now. In regards to going local, I don't know about you, but with St. Mary's, and we're going to talk a lot about them, and they're going to actually be a partner with the blog, because that's what we know. We're not the end all be all. This vlog isn't tell you what to do. It's just kind of what we know and what we went through. So
we had a good relationship with them.
Yeah.
It went great.
It went great.
So tell your story, which involves them.
Yeah. And basically we talked to them, and the difference between when we did our research and when we made the decision, and I don't know about you, but the fact that we were going to have a social worker dedicated to us, like only for us, not for all the birth mothers and for us, it was just going to be dedicated to us. Yeah. That made me feel so much better, because I'm a control freak, and I'm not going to use the word psycho, but like you can. I call my pediatrician probably 3 to 4 times a week. So I need somebody to talk me through what's going on upstairs. Yeah. And that's what we were going to get with them. Right?
Yeah, I think with them, they're a bigger company, but at the same time, like a smaller company that, they don't have, triple digit placements each year. That they spend time. It seems like each placement's a very big deal.
One thing that we liked was, okay, if you go nationwide, each state has their own laws for adoption. Example would be how long you would have to stay in the state until you could bring the child home after the birth mother signed the rights over, or the birth father. So the attorney fees were all going to be different for different states, and et cetera, et cetera. And that, to me, it was already a hard, like a learning curve and a learning process, that adding whether the state was different and us staying over there, I just didn't want to have to deal with that. I wanted to be in Illinois. I wanted to make it easy. Yeah. And that made me feel better as well.
Yeah. I think time-wise, we wanted a baby, as quickly as possible, I guess. But it did fit our timeline as well, to where it was like, hey, if this does take, 6-7 months, even obviously it was more likely to be a year or so later. But we were kind of okay with that. I wouldn't say 100% okay with that, but we were okay with that. And I like the fact of it being local too.
Yeah. And I think you said something, we liked the fact, but we necessarily didn't like the fact. That's adoption.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the one thing you kind of have to know off the bat. You have to roll with it. I do believe as a control freak, God put me in a position like this to learn to roll with it and know that there's not a definite answer to all of the questions, because there isn't with adoption, and each situation is different. So when we started, I'm going to move on to the next one of the next questions, because this is a big one with rolling with it. We had a question: what relationship will you have with the birth mom from here on out?
Yeah.
And when we started, one of the things I think that was the scariest, because we weren't educated, all we know, and all a lot of people know about adoption, is what you see on TV, This Is Us, or what you see in the movies and how they portray it, or how it used to be done back in the day, which was, for the most part back in the day, closed adoptions. Now, Catholic Charities and stuff like that, there's ways to find that information, but for us, all I knew was, wait, relationship with the birth mom? No. No. And I think both of us at the beginning of the process were like, we aren't going to do that. But if you look into the domestic infant adoption throughout much of the United States now, it's all open, which is awesome. And what we've learned through this has really opened our eyes to, there's no other way than an open adoption. Mm-hmm. So I think at the beginning of the process, when you're looking into this and you think, wait, having the birth mom involved, it's not co-parenting. Mm-hmm. And that's part of when you start the adoption process. You take classes and you work with your social worker, and they help you to understand this isn't co-parenting, but this is about the child and knowing their story from the beginning and knowing how loved they were in so many different ways, instead of making them feel like, oh, this is not something we touch.
Yeah, I almost feel like it's even easier. Mm-hmm. You can, if you do closed adoption, that's fine. I mean, people prefer different things. To me, with St. Mary's is predominantly, I mean, they are always open adoption, right? I mean,
it's really, again, sorry to cut you off, but with us saying that it changes and you have to be fluid, is you don't know, because it's really up to what you as an adoptive parent and the birth mother decide. Yeah. And if the birth mother decides, I think it's better for everyone if we don't, then that's what you decide to do. If you decide that maybe once a year or twice a year, or it's all different per adoption.
Yeah, they lean more towards it being open, and the option being there, not just saying that it's closed right off the bat. Right. But like I was saying before, I think it makes things easier, to be honest, and being.
But at the beginning, what did you feel?
Before we started, just the scared part of who are you going to get? Like, match with, or whatever, however you want to put it. Because you don't know. Because you immediately
go back to crazy movies where it's automatic drug, something crazy. And what's a statement that I think is really interesting is, you think, oh, it's going to be a lot of, teen moms and young, but I think our social worker, and I'll have to make sure I don't quote out a term, but it's late 20s to early 30s
is much more realistic.
The birth mom, that's normally where they
already have children.
Yeah, and they know how hard it is, and they're being selfless, and
it's not like.
So for the question for us in regards to how, what will we do with our birth mother, that we don't really know exactly how that's going to play out yet, because we've only been doing this for 3 months, and you don't decide that in the hospital. It's way too emotional, and there's for both families, it's a really emotional process, and you don't want to have those conversations because, again, you want it to evolve and you want the best for the child. So you want to jump to any conclusions, but we're hoping, that she's a part of our life in some way or another, and that works out, whatever's best for our child. And that's, one thing that with the adoption, and if you're starting that, to really learn that and learn to be fluid.